This is officially the Tallboy 2 Experience Take 3, and I just put some great burgers on the grill. Very tasty. Okay, and let's just talk about even more tasty things in terms of the mountain bike cycling world. So this is my Santa Cruz Tallboy 2. This is a carbon version, carbon rear and front triangle, full XT. It has Thompson seat post, carbon bars, and I recently installed some red Ori grips and experimented with not carrying a hydration pack. That's why I have the water bottle carrier there. So here's the deal. This is what's been going on since I've bought this bike in November of 2013. Went through basically a big change, going from a 26-inch mountain bike to a 29-inch wheel. My old bike was full suspension. It was a Trek Fuel, which was an excellent bike, Fuel EX. And so the transition was a little rough, mostly because of the weather, and I wasn't able to ride it as much. But you know, here we are, like, you know, practically 8 months later, and you know, based on my other video, you know, I had to torque the pivot, the suspension pivots to spec, the non-drive side crank arm to spec. I haven't had a creak or a knock from the frame since then, and I've learned to ride the bike much better than I did when I first bought it. Now, what have I done? I dropped the bars. That was the biggest thing. I dropped the bars, had some spacers up top, and the seat is all the way back. So what I'm learning to do is toss this bike around like I did on my old Fuel, and that essentially means throwing the bike ahead of me in turns. You know, putting my weight behind the seat. And I've also learned to play with the suspension a lot more. I'm going through this period where I keep the rear shock in trail mode most of the time, and I keep the fork in full squish mode, so to speak. And I don't have remote lockouts on this bike in terms of dialing in the suspension, but nonetheless, I find it pretty easy to just flick a switch on the trail if need be. You know, like this one right here. I just sometimes lock it out if I'm doing a really steep climb, or you know, this switch here, you know, throw it all the way back if I'm doing a steep climb. But generally, it's been a fantastic bike, and every time I ride it, I feel much better on it. One complaint I'll say, you know, out of the box essentially, is that the tires that this bike came with were the Maxxis Icons. These were the race version of the Icon, or it's just a race tire to begin with. And they, meaning Santa Cruz, didn't spec the Icons with, basically it was called EXO. I believe that's what it is. EXO, yeah. EXO basically just meant a more durable sidewall. So, you know, here I was with a brand new bike, and the lightweight race tires on here with the thin sidewalls, I just tore them up in a matter of months. You know, under conditions that were just normal, typical riding. You know, essentially, basically, my bike tire would rub against a rock, you know, in a rock garden or something, and it just, the tires basically, you know, popped a hole in them on a sidewall, which I've never done with any tire ever before. So, you know, it seems like Santa Cruz kind of spec'd this bike for speed, which is fine. I kind of look at it as more of a all-mountain cross-country bike, but the tires are not very aggressive, though they are fine now that I had to buy a new pair with the thicker sidewall. But, you know, in some situations, I wish I had a more aggressive tire. I guess the one that comes to mind right away is the Maxxis Ardent. Now, I've bought some Specialized tires, which are more aggressive than these on here, and I have yet to put them on. But enough about the tires. How has the bike been? It has been absolutely flawless. You know, bi-carbon bike with carbon frame and carbon bars. You know, I highly advise that you get a torque wrench. Learn how to torque everything down to spec. You'll have no creaks, pops. There'll be no mysteries when you're riding. You know, it's been great. What's missing really is some action shots of me jumping in the air or hammering around a turn. From what I understand, Santa Cruz has changed the spec on the Tallboy carbon a little bit, not much. But if you're in the market for one of these right now, what I understand, you no longer have the option for the Easton stem, nor the Easton carbon bars. I think the bars now are manufactured by Santa Cruz themselves, and the stem may be race face. I'm not quite sure. And also, this paint scheme is no longer available apparently. I think it's right now basically the same matte black, but with a turquoise graphics for the Santa Cruz name and other things. So that's about it. It's a great ride. You know, just real quick, I'm a soon-to-be 48-year-old rider. You know, I put a lot of time and effort into the sport. I decided to go full bore and get the nicest bike I possibly could. I'm not disappointed at all. And I've been riding as much as possible, and tomorrow I'm going to do a big ride, which I have to do early because here in Maryland it's probably going to be about 97 degrees according to the weatherman. So I have to get out early, and I'm going to do the lower Moco loop on this bike. And right now we haven't had a lot of rain, and the terrain is going to be fast and furious and dusty, and it'll be a lot of fun. And I'm hoping to break my old speed record on that 30-mile course. I actually think it was maybe 29 something, close to 30 miles. Last year I did it in like 3 hours, 8 minutes. So that was pretty quick. Now on this bike, I don't know what I'll do. You know, it handles a little bit differently. The bottom line is I'm learning to lean into turns. I'm learning to kick out my weight, you know, to the left and right. I find that I have to do that a little bit more. So there's a little bit more emphasis on throwing the bike around, I guess you could say, versus the 26. But overall, I love it. I think this is a great bike. This is a 2x10 drivetrain, and no complaints at all. You know, if you're in the market for a bike in this price range, I say go for it. You won't be disappointed. All right, I think I'm over. What's this over here? My video's over? All right, have a good day. Cheers, everyone out there in the mountain bike world.